Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking on something really fascinating, actually. Ancient monastic law.
Sounds dry, maybe, but it's not.
Not at all. Specifically, the Saṅghādisesa AX from Buddhist tradition. And, just imagine a community thousands of years ago dealing with stuff that feels incredibly current.
Things like false accusations, and how information gets weaponized, the power of the lie.
Exactly. That's what we're going to unpack.
And this deep dive, it's really about the foresight in these old texts. It's not just some dusty rule.
Yeah.
It's about protecting people from slander, maintaining the community's integrity. It gets into the precision of communication, how even a tiny fabrication can cause huge damage.
So our mission today is to pull out the core ideas, not just what the rule is, but why it was needed, why it was so important.
And what it can maybe teach us now in our information-heavy world.
You're going to see some parallels, I think. Surprising ones. Okay, so let's start with the incident itself, the spark for this rule. We're in Rajagaye, Veifen Kalendakani Vape. Give us the picture.
Right. So you've got this group of bhikkhus, monks, called the Mettiyabhummajakas. They're coming down Gitchakya Mountain.
Okay.
And they see something pretty ordinary, actually. A goat mating with a she-goat.
Seems harmless enough.
You'd think. But here's where the malice comes in. They decide to twist it.
And this is where it gets, frankly, bizarre. They play this really nasty joke.
They do. They point to the male goat and say, that's Dabba Mallaputta.
Who was a real person, a respected monk in their community.
A highly respected one, yes. And the she-goat. They name her Mettiyabhummaja.
Wow.
And then they go and spread this story, this lie, to the other monks.
They don't just say they saw a goat.
No, they phrase it carefully. They say something like, we'd heard things about Dabba Mallaputta before, but now we've actually seen him ourselves.
Engaged in sexual relations with Mettiyabhummaja, implying they caught him in the act.
Precisely. Trying to make the lie sound credible. Planting doubt.
Now, some of the other monks, they didn't buy it initially, right? They pushed back.
Yeah, they did. They said, look, Dabba Mallaputta wouldn't do that. But the Mettiyabhummajakas, they kept at it. They persisted.
And eventually this whole mess ends up before the Buddha.
It does. And the Buddha handles it very calmly. He asks Dabba Mallaputta about the accusation.
And his response is interesting.
Very. He just says, as the Bhagavat knows me, kind of implying his innocence without getting defensive or angry.
A simple statement of his known character.
Exactly. The Buddha asks him twice more, same response. Then he tells the community, right, investigate this, get to the bottom of it.
So the investigation happens, and
the Mettiyabhummajakas confess. They admit they made it up.
And their reason, their intent.
Chilling, really. The text says they wanted to make Dabba Mallaputta fall from this celibate life under the Sayapya namana ima brahmakarya kavayanti.
Meaning?
They wanted him kicked out.
Yeah.
They were trying to pin a Pārājika offense on him that's the most serious kind. Leads to expulsion based on, and this is the key phrase, a small part or trace of a different matter.
Just based on seeing a goat.
Essentially, yes. A completely unrelated event twisted with malicious intent. The Buddha, naturally, strongly rebuked them for this baseless, harmful accusation.
So this really strange story with the goat, how does it become a formal rule? What did the Buddha establish?
He established a sikkhapada, a formal training rule, specifically to stop this kind of thing.
And the rule itself, what does it actually say?
It's quite detailed, which is what's so impressive. The core is, if any bhikkhu, being malicious and displeased, should accuse another bhikkhu of a Pārājika offense.
Okay, the most serious offense.
Based on a small part or trace of a different matter, perhaps hoping to make him fall from this celibate life.
So the malicious intent is crucial.
Then if, later, whether investigated or not, that matter is indeed a different matter, and only a small part or trace was used, and the bhikkhu holds malice, it is a Saṅghādisesa offense.
Right, Saṅghādisesa. Explain that again. It's serious, but not expulsion.
Exactly. A Pārājika means you're out, permanently. A Saṅghādisesa is, let's say, the next level down. Still very serious. It requires formal community action, a period of rehabilitation. It shows they weren't messing around with false accusations.
They took character assassination very seriously.
Absolutely. And what's really fascinating, legally speaking, are the definitions. How they define a different matter, aññabhāgiya, adhikarantas, and a small part or trace, kinchidesa lesa upadai.
They anticipated the loopholes.
They really did. It shows, well, a sophisticated legal mind.
Different matter. What does that cover?
It covers different types of cases, abdikaran and offenses, apatadikaran.
Why separate them?
It's about clarity and preventing, false equivalences. A dispute case, like an argument over something, is different from an accusation case, which is different from an actual offense case, or a duty case about responsibilities.
So you can't use an argument about, say, shores to accuse someone of a major crime.
Precisely. They're distinct categories. And even within the most serious offenses, the Pārājikas, they're considered different matters.
Meaning?
Meaning, sexual misconduct, Mettiyabhummaja Pārājika, is different from stealing, Adinadana Pārājika,
Yeah.
which is different from killing, Manusavigāha Pārājika, or falsely claiming spiritual powers, Uttarimanusatama Pārājika.
So you couldn't see someone steal something and then maliciously accuse them of sexual misconduct based on that. The accusation has to match the alleged act, or at least the category.
Exactly. It demands specificity, real evidence for the specific claim being made. It's a very strong foundation for due process.
Okay, that's different matter. Now, a small part or trace. This feels really relevant today.
It really does. This is where the text outlines 10 types of traces, the dasa lesa. These are the flimsy tangential things that, if used maliciously to accuse someone of a Pārājika, would trigger this Saṅghādisesa rule.
This is almost like a catalog of logical fallacies used for slander.
In a way, yes. It's incredibly insightful. They're basically saying, here are the kinds of weak connections people might try to use to destroy someone's reputation.
Let's hear them. What are these 10 traces?
Okay, let's group them a bit. First, there are ones based on identity or superficial traits.
Like?
Number 1, jata lesa, birth caste trace.
Yeah.
Basically saying, I saw some guy from your caste commit this crime, so you must have done it.
Wow. Guilt by group identity.
Then, namaleso, name trace. I saw someone else named Saṅghādisesa do it, and that's your name, so it was you.
Just sharing a name.
Gataleso, clan trace.
Right.
Same idea, but with clan. Someone from the Gautama clan did it, you're Gautama, so.
Right. And the last in this group.
Likaleso, physical characteristic trace. You're tall, I saw a tall person do it, therefore you did it.
That's disturbingly familiar, isn't it? Using stereotypes or just superficial similarities as evidence.
It absolutely is. This text saw that danger centuries ago.
Okay, what's the next category of these traces?
Things related to minor actions or possessions.
Come on.
Pataliso, offense trace. This is a big one. Accusing someone of a Pārājika just because they committed some minor offense.
Yeah.
Using a small mistake to imply a huge crime.
Escalating things maliciously.
Exactly. Then, pataleso, bowl trace. Accusing someone based on the kind of begging bowl they use. Can you imagine? He uses an iron bowl, and I saw someone with an iron bowl commit an offense.
That seems almost absurdly specific.
It shows how detailed they were trying to be. And kivaraleso, robe trace. Same idea, but with the type of robe. He wears a rag robe, the offender wore a rag robe.
So you couldn't use someone's minor rule breaking or even just their appearance or possessions as a jumping off point for a devastating false accusation.
That's the point. Prevent that malicious leap based on irrelevant details.
And the last group of traces.
Pure association.
Like?
Guilt by association, essentially.
Aññabhāgiya.
Preceptor trace. Blaming a student because another student, taught by the same preceptor, did something wrong.
So your teacher also taught that bad guy, therefore you might be bad too.
Pretty much. Akarialeso, teacher trace. Same idea, slightly different kind of teacher.
Okay.
And finally, senasanaleso, dwelling trace. Accusing someone just because someone else who lived in the same place, same dwelling, committed a Pārājika.
Living in the same building makes you suspect. That really hits home today with online communities or even workplaces.
Doesn't it? It's that idea of proximity implying guilt. The text explicitly forbids using any of these 10 lesa, these traces, with malice to accuse someone of a Pārājika.
And doing so leads to the Saṅghādisesa offense for the accuser.
Correct. It stresses direct knowledge, real evidence, over just connecting dots maliciously.
And it's not just about inventing things out of thin air, like the goat story.
No, the rule is broader. It applies even if you saw the monk commit a lesser offense, maybe another Saṅghādisesa or a Thulakaya, Pachita, any of the minor categories.
Okay.
But then out of malice, you inflate it and accuse them of a Pārājika. That's also covered. The intent to falsely escalate is key.
And what if you get someone else to make the accusation?
Also covered. The text mentions kodabeti, causing another person to make the false accusation. It targets the source of the malice.
Seems pretty comprehensive. Are there any ways someone isn't liable under this rule? Any exceptions?
Yes, and they're important. They show balance. One major exception is if the accuser genuinely believes the other person committed a Pārājika.
So honest mistakes are protected.
If it's genuine belief,
Mhm.
Sañghādisesa, and not based on malice or knowingly using a different matter or trace, it protects good faith reporting, even if mistaken. You don't want people afraid to raise genuine concerns.
That makes sense. Avoids a chilling effect. What else?
Well, someone who is mentally unsound, Mettiyabhummaja, isn't held liable under this rule.
Okay.
And interestingly, there's an exception for the aññabhāgiya, the very first offender.
Meaning the Mettiyabhummajakas themselves, the ones who started it all.
It could well mean that. Since the rule was created because of their actions, they might not have been retroactively punished under this specific Sakkappada, a kind of legal principle about not applying laws backwards.
Fascinating. So, stepping back, this deep dive into Saṅghādisesa IX, it shows an ancient community tackling problems that feel incredibly, well, modern.
Misinformation, lies spreading, false accusations ruining reputations.
Yeah.
It's all there.
And the focus on due process, on investigation, on holding the accusers accountable if they act out of malice.
It's quite sophisticated, especially that detailed breakdown of the traces, how they understood the mechanisms of constructing a false accusation based on flimsy grounds.
It really hammers home how easily a tiny detail, a small part or trace, sharing a name, living nearby, a minor mistake can be twisted, weaponized.
Which leads to a big question, doesn't it, for you listening? How do communities back then, right now, protect people from this kind of reputational damage? Especially when just making the accusation, even if baseless, can hurt someone.
Yeah, and can we use this ancient way of thinking, analyzing those traces, to maybe better understand and fight misinformation today?
What stands out to you from all this? How do these old ideas about sorting truth from malicious lies resonate in our world, the online world, public debate?
The level of detail, the care they took in defining these rules, it says a lot about how much they valued truth, justice, and protecting the community fabric.
It really is a masterclass in anticipating how information can be misused.
Yeah.
They didn't just say don't lie, they dissected how malicious lies are built.
Exactly. This dive shows that figuring out true accusations from false ones, protecting people's standing, it's an age-old challenge for any organized group.
A reminder of how powerful words are and the responsibility we have in using them.
Definitely.
So here's a final thought for you to mull over. Think about that line between genuine concern and malicious intent when reporting something you think is wrong. This ancient system gave tools to diagnose how accusations are constructed. How could we apply that kind of careful diagnostic thinking today? To demand accountability? Sure, but without creating a climate where false accusations based on flimsy grounds or personal grudges can thrive.
Something to really consider. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope exploring this ancient wisdom has sparked some new thought about community, communication, and that ongoing search for truth.